Greetings to all who have tuned in. Today, we are going to be having a talk with one of our senior Rotarians, Justice Joyce Aluoch. Rotary Club of Nairobi has turned 90 years during this Rotary year. And in order to celebrate and commemorate the 90th anniversary, we are having a series of online talks with some of our club members, which include past presidents and senior Rotarians and individuals who have actually formed and shaped the country and international matters where they are involved. I'd like today to introduce to you a Rotarian. Justice Joyce Aluoch has been a Rotarian for a decade and has recently transferred from Rotary Club of Hague Metropolitan to Rotary Club of Nairobi, for which we are very proud. I'll give you a brief bio of Lady Justice Joyce Aluoch, who is a former judge and first vice president of the International Criminal Court at The Hague, the Netherlands. She was the second woman Court of Appeal, High Court judge, as well as magistrate in Kenya. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in London and the Kenya branch, International Council for Commercial Arbitration, Africa Arbitration Association, and Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. She was recently appointed a member of the International Advisory Board of the Office of Ombudsman for the United Nations Funds and Programs, chair of the Advisory Board of the Africa-Asia Mediation Association, board member of Mediators Beyond Borders International, and so much more, which we will learn today as Dr. Margareta has a discussion with Lady Justice Joyce Aluoch. And I must also let you know that she's a very active Rotarian and currently serving on the International Service Committee. So I'll now hand over to Dr. Margareta.
Oh, thank you. Wow, Ritesh, I think you did a wonderful summary of a very dynamic life. And as you say, we're so grateful to have Justice with our Justice. We're really delighted to have us today. It's an auspicious occasion, but I would start because I know you're very busy. As far as it goes, you would tell us a little more time at The Hague in the Netherlands, and how you selected, how you joined Rotary. I don't know if you joined first in Kenya or you joined first in The Hague. Maybe you clarify us.
Thank you very much for having me, President Ritesh and Margarita. I first joined Rotary, the Rotary of The Hague Metropolitan, and that was on the 9th of November, 2010, I still remember. And I stayed a member, I remember of the club until because I was April 2018. Now, it was very interesting how I joined the Rotary Club of the Hague Metropolitan. It was a Chartered, the one-time DP and several other things he's done. Time when he lived and worked at Hague, many years I went there myself. So he asked long and periodically he came to Hague. So that year, 2010, when he came to The Hague, he looked for me. He knew that he looked for me, and we were able to meet and sit together. He was with his wife. We were able to meet and have dinner together. And then he asked me, how do you spend your time? And I said, I'm trying to find out how to occupy my because I didn't move with my husband. He was there because of work. He's a medical doctor. And he gets, And I didn't move with any of my children because Brenda, who is number one, and son, were back home after all their studies, and they were working. Annie, who is the last born, is here. But then soon after, gave her an excuse to go back to for her master's degree course, because Connie is in the fashion. She's a fashion stylist. And I remember her telling us, me and her dad, that fashion does not thrive in that kind of atmosphere. So it was an opportunity for her to go and do her master's degree. So I told Sharad that there's not very much, I'm still trying to find what to do. So Sharad told me that, look, there is a Rotary Club, the Hague Metropolitan. He was one of the co-charters, is it? The co-founders of this club during the time when he lived at the Hague. Because this is the only Rotary Club, the only English-speaking Rotary Club. So a group of them got together and they got this club together, up and running. And so when he talked to me about it, then he introduced me to one of the oldest members. And that's how I got hold of him, Dr. Chada, and that's how I actually joined the Hague Metropolitan Rotary Club.
Wow. Well, give us just a sense of what projects were important for you while you were there. You were there quite a few years. I think there were some activities that you were quite involved in with Rotary, apart from your amazing work at The Hague in the ICC. Mm-hmm.
Now, it was so interesting that very year when I joined, either that year, was it that year or the following year? No, the following year, which would have been 2011, the club was taking they had a project with the Rotary Club in Kenya, but in Thika. So there was a big fundraising for that project in the Rotary Club in Thika. And my husband was able to come, and my daughter was that time in Milan, and she was also able to come. So almost every year, the Hague Metropolitan Rotary Club has an activity with a Rotary Club outside the Netherlands. And that particular year, it was with Kenya, which was very, very interesting indeed. I felt a bit awkward because I didn't know about the existence of that club. I told them that the only club I know is the one in Nairobi, and this was the Rotary Club of Nairobi. I told them that was the only club I knew, though I wasn't a member. But I took part, I participated and I took part because it was a Kenyan, it was a fundraising. And some members from that Rotary Club of Thika, of course, they came and they were present that night of the fundraising. And my daughter also took part. So we took an active part.
Wonderful. That's fabulous. Now, when you came back to Kenya, or even before that, could you give us a sense of how you got to The Hague? I mean, you were a high court judge, I think, the second woman, as President Ritesh said. But how were you appointed? Were you elected? Were you selected? How did you get to The Hague? It was quite an honor.
Thank you. I was, by that time I was in the Court of Appeal. Mm-hmm. And that was before the current constitution. So the highest court was the Court of Appeal. Mm-hmm. Today, of course, the highest court is the Supreme Court after the 2010, the current constitution. I was nominated by government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There was an original nominee, but for some reason, he was withdrawn and I was nominated. I had just come back from the Fletcher School. I had just completed my master's. And
wow.
when I got back, I was nominated by the government of Kenya through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these international courts, one has to be elected. So I eventually traveled to New York at the General Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute. And elections, believe it or not, on the 20th of this week, 20th of January, 2009, President Obama was being inaugurated in New York, in Washington, D.C., in his first term. And that was the same day that in New York at the General Assembly, our elections were going on. So I can never really forget 20th of January.
Wow.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
It was just a coincidence. I remembered it this week, yes.
So they voted for you.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes. Yes.
Tremendous. And were you the first African or no?
No. No, I was not the first.
Were you the first African woman?
No.
Oh.
African women have done very well. There were, we were the second lot of judges. There had been a first lot of judges. And in that first lot, yes, there were African women. That first,
wonderful.
For some strange reason, there were no African men, there were African women judges. Yeah.
So tell us, how, when you came back to Kenya, how did you choose the Rotary Club of Nairobi? We're so grateful and honored, as Rita said, to have you joining our club, but how did you choose it?
First of all, my late brother-in-law, Jerry War, was a member of this club, Rotary Club of Nairobi, for many years. I also had friends in the club. I hadn't met either of you, but Evelyn Mungai, Mike Eldon, those are my friends. And actually they introduced me to the club. I expressed a desire and I spoke to the two of them. Because so far, I must admit, it was the club that I thought I knew best because I had friends there. I live in Karen and there's a club in Karen, but I didn't really have any relationship with it as such, though I once went there just as a guest one evening, whilst I was still at the Hague, actually. Yeah.
So how did you choose? You chose us. You came to our meetings, our luncheons at the Regency, and we appealed to you, I guess.
Yes, I say that I had many friends. I met you, I think, the first day I came for lunch. I met both of you, and I met several other people whom I knew. I knew Josephine Ojiambo and several other. I felt that this was a club I would be comfortable because I had many friends in this club. Yeah.
Well, we feel very honored that you have joined us. But tell us, among the amazing roles that you are playing right now, you seem to have come back and gotten involved with not legal, but mediation. How did this happen? You are now, yes, tell us.
Now,
not arbitration. Yes.
Before my term at the Hague ended, before my 9 years term at the Hague ended, I think when I was, when I had two or 3 years to go, I started saying that I need to look forward to something when I go back home, because I'm not going to go back to work as a judge. I had thought I had had enough of that. I wasn't going to do that again. And besides, no, I didn't. I wasn't looking forward to that, no. So I decided to train first I trained as an arbitrator, and I was training in London. I would take my time, I would accrue my leave or weekends, and then I would train in London. I trained first as an arbitrator. Then after the following year, I trained as a mediator. So between arbitration and mediation, I was able to pick what I thought was suitable for me. And what arbitration, there's just one thing that made it not be attractive to me, in the sense that in arbitration, you as the arbitrator, you make the decision. You listen to parties, you hear their case finish one, cross-examine what, and I felt that that's what I had been doing all my life, making decisions after listening and questioning, listening to the witnesses being questioned and all that. But in mediation is very different. The parties, the disputing parties, finally make the decision. I facilitate their discussion as a mediator. Using my mediation skills, I facilitate their discussion. But the final decision must be made by the disputing parties, a decision that they can live with, so to speak. I simply facilitate. They are in charge of and in control. They're in charge of the final decision. Parties are in charge of the final decision, and that helps them to reach a settlement agreement. But I am in charge of the mediation process, facilitating their discussion throughout. And I thought that was something I could live with. And I'm enjoying that. That's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it.
Now, you said something, or Ritesh said something about your involvement at an international level, not just a Kenyan level. Could you tell us about how that came into being and what exactly you are doing? I mean, you are a busy lady.
Now, you know, the last year was an interesting year with the lockdown, partial or total lockdown. So
Yes.
what we had, what there was that remained with getting in touch most of the time was how we are now, how we are speaking now, online, isn't it?
Yes.
So one time I decided, I said, okay, I am a mediator. I'm an accredited mediator. And that was just the basic qualification that I got in London. There's no reason why I should only be an accredited mediator and only mediate locally. I said I think this COVID-19 pandemic provides an opportunity for people to move their professions forward, isn't it? So I trained online, and I got to the next level. I became a chartered mediator, and I also became a certified advanced mediator, because in mediation, you whatever you are training on, then you are assessed. And part of that assessment, the bigger part of it is role plays. Sometimes you play the role of mediator, sometimes you're a party, sometimes you. So I got those qualifications. After I've gotten those qualifications, then I said to myself, I cannot just mediate locally. I need to look forward to mediating in other platforms. So I said to myself, what about the UN? What do they have? And at that time, the UN, they were looking for mediators. I just stumbled on it actually, because it was so easy to search the internet at that time, because most of the time you are in the house, isn't it? So when I stumbled on it, I found that they were looking for mediators, and I said, am I really interested? I said, well, what do I lose if I show an interest that I'm interested? So I showed an interest. I was assessed, and eventually after the assessment, I think I was assessed on twice. Finally, they told me that, they wrote to me and said, it's true, we are looking for mediators, but after assessing you, we think you should join the International Advisory Board.
Oh my gosh.
So that, you together with the others, and we are only 9 members in that board, and I'm the only African in that board. So they said, so that you and the others, you can train the mediators, because UN has mediators spread around the world. You can train the mediators. And then you can also advise the office, any one of you, when called upon, or if there are any issues between any of the mediators and the staff members, then we can call upon either of you, because we are only 9. So that's how I got to be in the International Advisory Board of the Office of the Ombudsman at the UN.
Oh my goodness. Now listen, you joined Rotary in Nairobi in 2018. I would imagine in terms of your busy schedule, you haven't had much time for us, but I gather you are also active in our club. Could you let us know about that?
Yes. Once you are a member of a club, you have to participate. Even when I was in my club at the Rotary Club, the Hague Metropolitan, I once served in the Community Services Committee. And despite the fact that I didn't speak Dutch, but I was able to serve in that committee. And I was able to visit schools. There were 1 or 2 schools of disadvantaged children. And somehow I was able to get on. And then after that, I also served in, I was responsible for finding speakers every week. And that went on for like 2 years, a whole year and a bit. It was supposed to be a committee, but because maybe I was so active in it, the president of the day didn't tell me that, by the way, we are supposed to give you a committee. So I was single-handed for so long, but I was able to, I did build a big network, because if you're looking for speaker, then you've got to get out and have a network. And I was happy that at the end of it all, I was made a Paul Harris Fellow in recognition of the services that I offered that club.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, I have my...
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so since you've been back, what have you been up to with our club?
Now I'm in the International Services Committee. I was supposed to head a program on a water project, Tala, but unfortunately it didn't fall through. It didn't come through. So now there's a new program. That's a webinar we're going to have immediately after this. That's yes, another program that that my committee says now you have to head this one, because the other one did not come through. Not due to the fault of the club. There were just issues that enabled it delayed, and so the club that was supposed to bridge the gap pulled out because they said our club delayed. And this happened before I joined the club. But anyway, there is another program again. There's another project. Yeah.
Well, wow, that's wonderful. Well, I gather you're having a meeting, as you say, quite in not too long. So I think we shouldn't detain you. I think I'd love to know if President Ritesh would like to ask a question before we release you to go to your next webinar for Rotary. President Ritesh?
Thank you so much, Dr. Margareta and Rotarian Justice Aluoch. This was truly a very enlightening talk. And I think one thing which I would like to share, which you did not mention, but I'm aware of, is you also served as the vice president at the Rotary Club of Metropolitan, Hague Metropolitan.
Yes, I did.
My goodness.
That was 2016, 2017. Yes, I did.
You didn't mention that.
It just escaped. Somehow, Ritesh, the president, seems to know. It is true.
More about you.
And I think it's documented in, which I believe the letter must be in the records of the club.
Yes.
When I was transferring, and of course I got a transfer letter from my my previous club, and that is mentioned, it's documented in that. Yeah, I just didn't think about it today.
President Ritesh,
yes.
May I just make a comment?
Yes, please.
One of my dear friends said, if you want somebody to do something for you, ask a busy person. Don't, because a busy person is organized and will be able to find room for your request. And somebody who doesn't have who has time on their hands are not likely to follow through with what you need. So I think that might be slightly an explanation for this very busy lady who has time for us. And thank you so much, Justice Joyce. Yes,
Thank you,
continue.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I'm happy that you asked me to speak, and I tried to be. as brief as I could. You know, being brief is not one of the qualities lawyers have. But I tried my best to be as brief as possible so that we don't take too much time over this.
Well, I must say you are a role model to Kenyans generally, and specifically Kenyan women. And precisely, I imagine you're a role model for your daughters. I didn't realize you had 3 daughters.
Yes,
How
I do.
marvelous.
Yes.
They must appreciate.
2 of them are now married. I have grandchildren.
Ah.
I have 3 grandchildren by God's grace, yes. Yeah.
That keeps you busy too.
Yes, especially the ones, the twins who were born last year. I went home with them and stayed with my daughter for about a week to assist. And almost every week I create time. I have to create time to go babysit. And I hope this coming weekend they will come with their parents. Otherwise, I think in our lives, we just have to create time. It's just a matter of how you juggle your time and find time to do the things that one has to do, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you, President Ritesh.
Thank you so much. Can I have just one question for Justice Aluoch?
Yes.
Please, please.
I would like you to please share with us some of your some highlights. You're one of the few individuals who has received multiple national recognitions and honors. Could you share with us about your national recognitions?
The first honor I received was from President EBS, Elder of the Burning Spear. That time I was still serving in Kenya. I then received from President Mwai Kibaki, Chief of the Order of the Burning Spear. I think it's CBS.
Correct.
CBS. And the very year that I came back, I was fortunate to be amongst a group of, distinguished ladies. And from the current President Uhuru Kenyatta, I received a Trailblazer Award. Yeah, so as you can see, the last 3 presidents, I have received recognition from all 3 of them. Yeah, at different times. Yes. Yeah.
Many congratulations, truly.
So you transcend political parties and politics for the wonderful work that you do and have done. Marvelous. We're so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, and you too.
Thank you. Thank you, President.